Welcome to the Spin Wiz Comic Show.
Whoa.
From Raleigh, North Carolina. Join us for exclusive interviews with the publishers bringing you the newest titles in indie comics, webcomics, movies, and more.
No way.
And now, here's your host, Jeff Palumbo.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Hot damn, it is Wednesday. It is hump day. I am super glad to be here because, quite honestly, I've been having some PC problems with streaming. My guest tonight is a gem of a person hanging out with me while I'm dealing with all these weird computer, internet, Zoom problems. But the dude I have on tonight, now that we're here, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, it's anytime. So I'm not late. I'm literally right where I'm supposed to be for you. But for everybody else, I'm a tad bit late. I appreciate it. And the dude I have on tonight, honestly, if we were separated at birth and I'd be like, and somebody told me later, I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess so. Like, it wouldn't even be a shock. The dude and I get along so well. He's got an amazing webcomic. He's super funny. His knowledge of comics and video games and movies from the same era that I am. And I'm not saying I'm old, so shut your face. I'm just saying that I come from the 80s and 90s where movies were awesome. And video games were awesome. And they weren't commonplace. And they weren't mainstream. And all the stuff we watched. I mean, obviously Ghostbusters is mainstream. But this dude has it all. Good dude. I want to bring him in here. I want to talk about gnarly science. I want to talk about all these cool things and how he's coming up with that. And 15 to 20 minutes later, we're going to sign off and your life is going to be changed. So instead of talking to me, let's bring the man of the 20-minute hour in, Mikey Ferraro in the house.
Hey, man.
Dude, thank you for being here. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, dude, I'm flattered to be here.
Oh, wow, flattered. Damn, I knew that I brought you on for a reason. Already making me feel better.
No, dude, seriously, you guys are doing the Lord's work over at spinwizcomics.com. For real. I mean, the other day, like, a friend that I don't often see was like, he knew I was doing like a webcomic, and he was like, oh, I Googled you, and I came up with some site. And I subscribed to it. I was like, hell, what the hell with it? It seems pretty cool. I'm like, what site? He's like, oh, I think it was called SpinWiz. I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
That is great. Yeah. If you actually Google gnarly comics, we are number one. We actually pop up as number one for you.
That is awesome.
So, and speaking of that, I'm going to pull that up while we talk about what gnarly science is. Because for those, obviously, we want to engage with people. I want more people to see your content. And honestly, it's different than any other webcomic out there. It's great content. You can tell a lot of it comes from your heart and from like your brain, and like you can almost view the way you're thinking about certain topics. And I think that's what's so cool about it. Like, nobody ever has to guess where you're coming from. It's really well done. It's the art is completely different. And I think the best part is everybody can kind of dig the art, and it's not a Marvel DC look. It is your own style, but the stories and the commentary are so good that people can just relate automatically.
I hope so. And dude, you're making my night. That's awesome.
So I'm dropping it in there. So obviously, if you're on our live with us on Facebook right now, it's in the chat. If you're on YouTube, just scroll down. Mike and I are up here, and all you got to do is scroll down here, and Mike's link is literally right there. I mean, you can't miss it. So for those people that haven't really jumped into the world of gnarly science yet, why don't you give them a background of kind of what it is and where it came from?
Okay, so I like, trying to explain this briefly. Like, when I was younger, like in my 20s, I was a musician. I was in bands, and I was a singer-songwriter, and I loved it. But as I was getting older, and like I felt I didn't have what it took to do that grind of like playing shows and all these things. At some point, I decided to make a comic that's centered around all these different bands. So I would like do the art and write the comic, and then me and friends would like create the music for the bands. It was, especially in hindsight, a way too ambitious project, and it took me a couple of years actually to really have that sink in, to really accept that it was too ambitious and I didn't really have what it took to pull it off, because it was like this epic graphic novel, like hundreds of pages I had planned. So fast forward to a couple years ago when I decided to rejoin social media, because I hadn't really been on social media since like the MySpace era, that's where I was putting my music and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to New York Comic Con, I think it was 2016 or 17, and I actually saw, I went to this panel where Casey Pierce, who's recently on your show, she was speaking about social media, and it was just so weird because I had just joined social media, and it was this whole serendipitous thing where I was posting on social media some images from that project. If you scroll to the bottom of my Instagram, you'll see some of those images. After I left that Comic-Con, and particularly Casey's panel, I started making quick little like comic strips, one panel jams with a character that was like kind of based on me, but like a little chibi version.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seemed really fun to just like let loose and just have this character like essentially express whatever was on my mind. And then it like started to evolve further when I decided to introduce a twin sister to this character who was basically from the follow-up story to my ambitious project that I left behind. So there you go. Like, not only was I not able to pull off that ambitious project, I already had a follow-up that centered around this like scientist girl who like time travels and all this stuff. So I kind of just took her and put her into what eventually became Gnarly Science.
Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. And like, so Gnarly Science, is it not a spin-off, but even the logo kind of looks like Weird Science.
For sure. Like, it was actually called Rad Science at first. I even have like somewhere like a sketch that I did at my day job. Like, and rad, as much as I love that word rad, it seemed like a lot of people were using it, excuse me, in recent years. And I was like, there's got to be a better word that is still like kind of 80s related.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hit upon gnarly, it was like, okay, that's perfect. It sounds so much better than Rad Science, and I feel like it really encapsulates it. What's funny though, I was thinking about this recently. Like, I feel like I can't use that word anymore, because before the comic, I would say, "Oh, that's gnarly," but now I feel like when I say that, people are going to think I'm like name dropping the comic or some weird thing like that. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I can never use... I don't see me using Spinwiz in a sentence necessarily, so I mean, I don't have that problem, but I love the word gnarly.
Yeah.
My favorite use of the word gnarly is in Goonies. Mouth says it quite a bit. And,
dude, you're right.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah,
you're making me want to watch Goonies tonight.
You should. I might go do it.
I really should.
It's a great
Everyone
flick.
should.
So yeah, he's just, something happens, and I can't remember. He saw either a skeleton or something like that, and then he's like, gnarly. And that's the first time that I really heard the word in the 80s. Obviously, I was a kid.
Yeah.
But Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure use it all the time, and that's
Exactly.
awesome. They use it in Weird Science once. Like, it was a great 80s word.
And what I love about it, you can kind of use it for something that's like gross, but you could also use it for something that's kind of like a little fantastical or like out there. So it's like, oh, that's gnarly, or oh, that's gnarly. Like it's kind of cool in that way.
Yeah, I always kind of yes. It could be badass, or it could be gross,
Yeah.
or it could be that it's so gross it's badass.
Exactly. So I'm not claiming my comic is all those things, but the fact that like it doesn't have to be one or the other, this gross out thing or this like totally badass thing. You kind of have some wiggle room.
Mm-hmm. So where do you keep coming up with ideas? Because you crank out content all the time.
Dude, I'm glad you mentioned that only because like I work my ass off on it, and I'm only saying that to highlight that like there's so much stuff like I want to indulge in, and like it's just so hard to find the time. So just anyone listening from social media, like if I haven't gotten to your thing, it's only because I'm so swamped. But I'm looking forward to getting to your thing. Yeah, just the ideas. I just kind of pull from a mix of like experiences in my 20s and like stuff now. So I'm working on another Halloween comic, hopefully that's coming at the end of the week, that deals with zombies and woke culture.
Oh,
so
wow.
And so you're going to have the Mikey character express opinions on that culture. So it's like essentially me in my 20s commenting on woke culture now.
Right. Yeah.
So don't get mad at me if he says
It's Mikey. It's not Mike
stuff.
Ferraro. It's Mikey.
It's what's that?
I said it's not Mike Ferraro. It's Mikey.
Exactly. That's what I hope everyone keeps in mind when they read Gnarly Science.
And that's why we do these shows, just so everybody is yeah, so Brian Silverback's coming in. He said it's different, and that's what matters. And honestly, Brian, Mike's stuff is different, and it's great. It really is, Mike. I don't know if you think that you do a good job, or it feels like you're just trying to put it out there, and if people like it, that's great. If not, that's okay too. But I think your ability to be so wholesome in the nature of just being where you are in your mind at that point in time, everybody can relate to. And you know, and I don't know if you know Brian Silverbacks or not. He was on the show a couple weeks ago. He's super talented, and he fits in that same age range as we do. Even though you look like you're still in your your mid to late 20s, and I look like I'm decrepit. But
it's because I'm a slacker. That's what it comes down to. So Brian left that comment.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much, Brian. You're making my week. Thank you so much.
Yeah, he's a good dude too. Another dude that's like, yeah, I'm okay, and I'm like, what do you mean you're just okay? Like, are you kidding me? Like, Loggerhead is fantastic. What is wrong with you? So, and that's the reason we do this show, is because the people out there, they need to know not only that you have great content, but I think people will gravitate towards you as a person. Like, I hope so. You're very chill. Like I said, you and I having beers would just be like two guys hanging out that have known each other for their whole lives, and they're like, "What's up, man?" Be like, "Hey, let's go have a beer."
Dude, I believe it. As soon as we started talking, before we started, and you were setting stuff up, like I immediately felt comfortable, because even though it was the first time we had spoken audibly, I can sense that. So it's really cool.
It would be great, and that doesn't happen a lot. Like, I will say that a lot of people in the indie community are actually pretty cool. Most of us kind of get along. There's a couple people that think they're too cool for school, but that happens in every industry, which is fine. But I would say
I was gonna say,
the core people, the core people are all cool, and they want to see each other succeed. You're cool with them, they're cool with you. They automatically think your content's great just because of the person you are. And that's what I'm trying to do, is introduce people to guys like you, because they're like, dude, I saw this on Spinwiz Comics, like in an interview. I got to go check it out now, because it's different. And Brian actually just said, you don't have to be mainstream to be successful. Go get it. And that's what I think you're doing.
No, that's awesome. And I gotta check out Brian's stuff later. It's one of those things where I may have already have seen his stuff, but I'm so bad with names, so forgive me. But I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, ping me if you need his link to his stuff. And no,
For
I'll
sure.
get it for you. Good dude. Like I said, another good dude that just is doing his thing, and he's just crushing it. So, so in regards to the 80s, because you generate, obviously the character is in the 20s. Do you ever find like you go backwards trying to think of this situation, how he would be it, and be like, do you ever look at it back and just be like, wow, I was a dumbass? Because I do that a lot.
Oh, that is a defining aspect of my life. I think about how much I was a dumbass, like more than I probably should. And just so people know, I wasn't, you know, a really like evil guy or anything, but
No.
like I was just so stupid. And like, again, it's all in the comic. Like they're exaggerated stories, but I was just really clueless. And, you know, it's funny, like at the time, like say whatever girlfriends I had, you know, I thought I appreciated them, but not as much as I should have. So the comic is this weird cathartic means of expression to kind of like get that out, like to kind of like, I mean, it's comedy, but Mikey is always getting his just desserts, as he should. So that's the constant fun, just thinking of scenarios where he does something stupid and gets his comeuppance.
Yeah, but I think it's really great. And Brian said that's how you know you had a lot of fun, by the way. If you could, if you can only look back and be like, wow, I did some really dumb shit. That means you grew up and that was when you're supposed to do dumb shit.
That's the thing. It's not so much this bitter kind of like, oh my God, like I was such an, you know, so bad, and you know, I have to repent for it. It's a thing of like, I'm glad I'm able to look back and see it for what it is. Like, I'm glad I'm not doing the same things now.
Oh yeah,
that would obviously be a problem.
I would be a full-blown alcoholic if I was still doing the stuff then that I did now that I did then. And I was a good guy too. I didn't have problems. I was friends with a lot of people. I didn't do anything that I'd have to go to church for necessarily. But some of the stuff that I did, it'd be like, that was dumb. Like, just again, you know, to Brian's point, that's were you having fun? Yeah, you're still in that invincibility mode where you're not really thinking about it, and that builds character for when you're older. And you're like, I remember when I'm 80 or 90, telling my grandkids what I used to do. I'm gonna be like no holds barred, and kind of telling them the stuff, and then, or I'll tell your stories. I'll be like, listen, mine are okay, but I know this dude Mike Ferraro, and he's got stories. Be like, let's call him up. He's probably still alive. Let's find out what he's got going on. And
that's awesome.
I think that's the fun part. So, and I love how you mix science fiction and the 20s together, and how that kind of like builds. Again, I don't want to keep going back to Weird Science, but
no problem.
I think the plot of Weird Science, while different than your comic, you are taking science fiction in a localized, yet like it's in its bubble, and the science fiction almost stays in the bubble, even though she's, you know, mostly in almost every comic. You aren't Mikey's not science fiction. She is. Exactly. And I like how those two things, I mean, yes, they intertwine sometimes because of the conversation, but it only overlaps. It doesn't overtake each other. And I think that's, I don't know if you know that you've done such a good job on it.
Dude, I was just thinking, like, I wish I had the means to hire you as like my publicist, because you're articulating it way better than I ever could. Well,
you know, I stopped drinking hardcore about 20 years ago. So yeah, something like that. Well, and that's why I love you on the site. We need more of your content. You definitely need to send me more of your content. And
I really do.
And honestly, I think what we want to do and what I want to help you with is when we get to that, you know, 120 page or 100 page setup. And I think you're almost there. You're like, what, 70 something? 70?
Oh,
76 pages that you've actually put out like on Instagram and stuff? Because you're on 37 on ours. But
Wow.
we can obviously update everything. You just need to send it to me, and we'll upload all of it for you. But I think you're at like what, 76, something like that.
Wow. Dude, it's one of those things, like, my OCD prevents me sometimes from, like, looking at numbers like that. I always think I got to see, like, how many comics or panels I've done, and, like, I keep putting it off, like, for this, like, special moment that, you know, may never arrive. But you're kind of pushing me to that, which is awesome. Like, yeah, I should. Wow, you're blowing my mind. Like 70 something. That's crazy.
I think you are right around there. If I took a quick note of what we didn't have and what we did, and I think you're around 70 something now.
Wow.
And at 100, I mean, you obviously, if you get to a place where you feel like the story arc can not that it stops, because even 101 would probably still be a continuation of the story. Like, you don't want to get lost, but I think you and I can find a good spot. And let's see, once I get print on demand all set up on the site for the traditional artists, and then I can get into webcomics. Let's see if we can find a way to take that content, normalize it, and let's see if we can get you a volume and get it in print.
Dude, that would be a dream come true. I daydream about that kind of stuff every day.
Yeah, so I'll help you with it when we get to that point, and you think that the storyline at least can, again, it doesn't stop, it doesn't end, it doesn't change. It's just a good stopping point for a volume 1, so it doesn't leave everybody wondering what the hell. Like, why did you stop on 100 when they're in the middle of a conversation?
Dude, I'm certainly gonna keep that in mind, and like, work towards that for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you have story arcs, and I don't even know if you know you're doing it. You have your continuals, and then you'll have a 1 or 2 like a banger, and then you'll come right back to the storyline. And people that who did it best was Control Alt Delete. That webcomic had the ability, back in the day when I was reading it, they had the ability to have their storyline, pieces of it. They'd have a couple one shots of just a quick frame that was on his mind, and they jump right back into the story. And that's what kept people reading it, is because the storyline continued, even though there were these like political things or things about gaming or a new movie coming out, and they were psyched about it and they'd post about that. So I think you have more than you know ready. I think we just once we get to that point, I'll help you try to normalize it into a template that is printable, because some things change sizes on you. I know that because I see you writing them. We'll take care of that, man. I got your back.
No, dude, that's awesome. Like you mentioned, like the ongoing stories. That's a thing. Like I was doing one with the twins, and they were jumping from these different dimensions, like to beat 'em up dimensions that were centered on beat 'em up games. And I enjoyed the story. It was obviously for fun. And then it got to the point where, for the first time, I had written an ending to that little story that I was so super proud of that I stopped it. And there was probably some people that were like, what happened? Well, this story didn't go anywhere. And for anyone that's thinking that, that's what happened. Like, and not that it's not that social media is unworthy for that story, but it was just one of those things where, like, I'd like to see this like in print. I'd like to finish this in print. And not that I necessarily have to do that. I mean, if it doesn't go that way, that's fine. But I just shifted back to my other stuff because I wanted, I guess I wanted people to take in that story as much of it as possible at once. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but
you are.
Something you said about the continuing stories, that's something, that's one of my goals, is to finish that story. I'm really excited for people to experience that ending, because I'm really proud of that ending.
Well, once you get to that point, we can catalog it and find out where you really want to do it. And it'll take some time. I mean, that's not an easy project, but I think it's one that is valuable, and you can put it, maybe it ends up being 60 pages, right? And your other ones are one bangers that are just fun. You can split it up like that, where you have your story arc and then bangers, and you just put in a slice or like a breaker page, and then people can still read all the kind of cool one-offs that you have. I mean, you can do it different ways. Once you're doing it in print, you can set the pages up however you want. So I'll work with you. When we're finally there, we're probably a month away. Well, we're less than a month away from print on demand as soon as we get our templates done. And then we're probably about 4 or 5 months off to getting webcomics up for print. So once we're there and I have the template, I'll share it with you and we'll see what we can do.
Oh, dude, I'm so stoked. So looking forward to that.
I think it'll be great. Yeah, and obviously we want your story to be done by that time too. So if it takes 9 months, then it takes 9 months. But I think we'll have functionality in about 4 or 5, if I'm thinking correctly.
Too cool, man.
Yeah, I got your back, buddy. No doubt. So,
Nice.
Are you still doing music?
Twice I put up like these covers on Instagram for the fun of it. I want to get back into that, and ultimately, possibly for that story I mentioned, I'd like to kind of like bring in that aspect of my old project that I mentioned with the bands, because basically I'll have the twins go to like the future, and it's kind of, I mean, I'm the only person that would be aware of this crossover, but like it's kind of a crossover with my old project. They're gonna run into the bands of my old project. So once I get to that point, I would certainly like to have music for it. So I have friends that would do music for one band, and I would do like singer-songwriter type stuff for like one of the characters, like stuff like that.
I think it could be cool. And some of what you potentially could do that could be funny, not that we're brainstorming live or anything, but once we kind of read through it and make sure that it all fits, if there are breaks that don't fit, you either A, could draw them in and create the little blocks that fit into each piece of the story that might be missing, or you can do something funny and it's just literally a written page of text from you saying, hey, I was trying to get this across, like almost like notes from the author. Here's what I want. Here's what I wanted to say, and people might get a huge kick out of the fact that they're entering into your world as an author and a creator, and then they're like, "Oh, that's what he was trying to get, but it's missing." They could be like, "That's so dope that they're talking right to us, breaking that fourth wall."
Dude, I think about that all the time. It's so crazy you mentioned that, because that is certainly an idea I had for a potential print version where, I love that. And not because I necessarily want to hear myself talk or write or whatever, but like that, those are aspects that I love about comics and stuff that I've read. Anytime the author does that, I mean, those are some of the things that stick with me, that I remember the most.
I mean, I think we're coming up with just awesome ideas here that are gonna make people go bonkers for this thing.
That'd be so cool.
It would. So, and I obviously I want to hear some of the music. Right? What kind of music was it? Was it metal, or was it get that Spanish guitar out?
Yeah, like my stuff was more like acoustic singer-songwriter, but like the bands I were in were like, one was kind of like alternative, a little bit of the Smashing Pumpkins and Radiohead and stuff. And my one of my best friends, he's like an insanely talented musician. He had already started doing music. I had one of the bands was like a synthetic band, like Robots. So he was doing all this really rad, like a little Nine Inch Nails ish, like electronic industrial kind of like mixed with like 80s, like kind of new wave, like Joy Division and The Cure. It's one of those things where I love what he did so much that I feel it has to come to fruition, like in this comic form at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you could even put little promos in there and be like, here's this and this in the comic. Click on here and you can hear this song for free.
Exactly.
Like that would be sweet. Like while you're reading this,
Yeah.
think of this song, or listen to the song and then read the comic, read this frame, or read this brick of 9 or whatever it might be. I'm down with it, man. I gotcha.
That was precisely what was on my mind when I was working on that project. That's why it lasted so many years, because I was really excited about it, and I really I still care a lot about it. Again, it was just, especially as an artist, Gnarly Science made so much more sense. And in terms of content, that project got really heavy and dark. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of going through, like, I had some bad points of anxiety around that time. So again, it seemed very serendipitous that I shifted to Gnarly Science, which is a lot more fun. Mm-hmm. It was, it all made sense.
Yeah, I think the best thing, if anybody's watching right now, like I said, on YouTube or Facebook Live or whatever, if you want just a fun webcomic, again, certain people go for comics or webcomics for the art or for the, a certain writer, which is fine. I mean, everybody has the reason why they consume content. But what I found is that movies and comics that I just find are fun are worth more, especially, and this is my personal opinion, this is not a Spinwiz Comics opinion, in our world, in our nation right now, sometimes just having fun kind of, it helps. There's enough stuff that's not, that sometimes you just need a little general fun.
Dude, I couldn't agree with you more. I was just thinking, I was driving back from the store earlier, and to be honest, I was nervous about doing this, and as much fun as it is, and I love talking to you, I couldn't help but think oh, well, what am I doing later? What am I watching later when I'm not as nervous or whatever? And the whole Halloween season, I've been watching light horror stuff, really light, Addams Family, mm-hmm. The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror.
I was watching that. I was just watching that this week.
Nice.
On Disney Plus. Yeah,
exactly. This year, it's redundant to say, but it's been such a hell year that I couldn't. Not that I couldn't handle, but I just wasn't in the mood for the super dark, I needed that fun with mm-hmm. the horror.
Yeah, I can't, for whatever reason, I can't, I loved season 1 of The Boys, and I cannot bring myself to watch season 2 just because I can't deal with the over-the-top blood and gore. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Usually I'm just oh, damn, and I'm that's crazy how they did that, because they try to top themselves every time.
Yeah.
And as a creator, I get it. I think that's cool, but I don't want to see it. And it's just too crazy. Obviously, if it's something like the Lovecraft show that's on HBO, that's a little bit different because it's so kind of wrapped in mysticism and supernatural that I can I'm okay with some of that. But even some of the things happening in that are so close to what's happening now in the world sometimes that I'm kind of oh man, I don't even, it's not that I don't disassociate myself from the world. I know what's happening. Sure. And I'm not going to get into political views on a show like this. I'm happy to talk to anybody about politically of what I think offline, but online it's not the place for it. But
yeah,
certain things I'm I don't want to watch it on the news and then see it again in something that I'm watching for entertainment. So because I don't agree with it in the news, I'm definitely not going to agree with it in entertainment. So I'm kind of I want to watch something just fun. I don't want to be attached to that for a little while because I can't do anything about it. This I can do something about. Or I can do something about it in the real world, but I need to take a break to detox. And
exactly. So. That's what I'm saying. It's yeah, dude, you're hitting it on the head. I mean, I'm obviously for all forms of expression and art, and like I said, my old project was very dark. But yeah, man, sometimes it's just like it takes its toll. And you know, it's funny. Like this past weekend, I was rewatching Ash versus Evil Dead, and that gets super gory, but the comedic aspect is so strong that it like counters it. Like, in my opinion, like
no,
I was able 100%. To just roll with that. Like it gets super bloody and violent and gory, but it's remains funny enough that it's you don't really feel it in that way.
Yeah, it's as for I mean, that movie is almost B level, like campy, and it's meant to be. In my opinion, those are actually comedies, not horrors. Like I understand where the horror thing is, but he's so good at delivering all of that.
Yeah.
That again, you're right. I think it was. I don't know if it was written that way or not to kind of put if bad stuff is really, really happening, that's the way he thinks about it. That it's just so jacked up that he's almost delirious. And I agree with you. Yeah. So I'm glad we agree on that. It's just, and that's where I think gnarly science can come in. Obviously, you don't have to be a fan of the 80s like we are in order to to dig it. I think you'll enjoy it regardless. So if people are watching, go see it. The link's in there. The link's below. It's free. Everything that Mike puts up is 100% free. I don't think he has charged a cent for any of it. It's not on Spinwiz anyway.
Yeah, I have friends that often chastise me for not having a Patreon, and they're not wrong. But I got to figure something out. But like, I'm very it's a big concern of mine. Like, I want to create quality stuff for people, and of course I want them to check it out. Like, I'm pretty unknown, like, you know, so I think artists should be paid for their content. I'm not trying to dispute that. I just, it's hard for me to find I guess I'm trying to get to a point where I'm comfortable doing that. I obviously haven't felt that yet. I mean, it would obviously be nice to get paid, but I'm very happy when people get off on it and they, you know, give me some kind of feedback. I don't know. I don't mean to sound all hippie-ish or whatever, but it does mean a lot to me. I really love it. I really, so far it's been worth that. That is, the value is, I can't put a value on it. I really love that. So yeah, yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to get paid at some point. Well, I just got to figure out like how to go about that.
Well, like I said, when we wrap it into a graphic novel or a volume 1, then you can make some money on it. But I've been telling a ton of people, like on our site specifically for indie guys, I said the biggest thing you have for digital is the fact that you should let people read it. And then where you make your money is on your volumes or your Kickstarters or your next issue. So I think you're actually doing it right. It's just that I think the next goal is getting all your content and then letting me blast it so that we can let everybody see how much you have.
Yeah, I got it. I'm obviously going to get it to you.
We got your back,
this
buddy.
week. But
there's no rush.
But that's the best way to what you just said is the best way to put it. I just, it was a long way of getting there, but like, yeah, once I have something physical, I feel more comfortable asking people to buy it. Like, this, and again, it's not to downplay digital only. I mean, we're living in a digital world.
Right.
But it's, I mean, you guys, like, you guys have this crazy service with like thousands of, I mean, it's just like, you know, so people should pay for that. For me, just independently putting my little comics online, like it's been hard for me to justify asking for money. But for sure, like if I had something that people could hold, I would be more comfortable with that.
I'll help you get there, buddy. Don't worry about it. I got your back.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's no problem. And I'm obviously not pushing you to get your content. I feel bad that you're just like, dude, I'll get it to you. I didn't mean that by any means.
Oh, no. Oh, dude, you know how I am. We've talked through DMs for a while now. Like, I am like, it's this weird dichotomy. Like, again, Gen X, like slacker, like I worked my ass off on the comic, but I'm so scatterbrained when it comes to other stuff. So it's like I have a hard time getting organized and managing my time and like remembering stuff. So I guess it had to come to me being on your podcast to send you the stuff I need to send.
Dude, if worse comes to worse, every week or so I'll just ping you on Instagram and be like, dude, send me your last clump of comics and we'll load them. If that's what it takes, man, I'm not worried about that.
Awesome.
Like, it's not hard. It's not. I've got you. So, but I think my thing is it's such a fun comic that people, again, if you lived in the 80s or the early 90s, you're going to like it even more because there's Easter eggs in there. There's all sorts of stuff that comes from when we grew up. Like you're going to enjoy it. And I think that's why I want people to read it and enjoy it like I do. So I'm excited about having more of it, but I think that other piece is don't sweat it. It's all good. It's all
That's
good.
Awesome, man.
Well, listen, man, I told you we should probably talk for 20 minutes. It has been 40.
Really?
Yeah. Time flies with me. Multiple people have told me we start talking and time just like that. I take that as a compliment, by the way, not as a bad thing. If people aren't running from me like, oh, screw this. I think, again, I loved it. Back to Brian Silverbacks and I think we were on, it was supposed to be 15 minutes and I think we hit 55. Like it got into shooting the shit.
I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, it got into just shooting the shit about everything. And I think, again, that's the great thing about guys like you and guys like me is great that we have content. And that's kind of what brought us, let us know who each other is. But a lot of us are cut from that same cloth, at least to an extent of how we treat each other. And again, not everybody. There's a couple douchebags in our industry that think they're too awesome and need to get rearranged. But I'm not going to do that. Yeah. I'm too old. I don't need to go to jail for something stupid. I have a family and stuff. I can't do that. But in general, I think most people just want to chill with cool people. And it just happens that we all are part of this medium that is comics. So,
dude, it's so cool, man.
Yeah. So listen, I'll tell you what, hang out with me just a minute. I'm going to sign off. I'll be right back to you to say thank you offline. But hang with me just 1 minute. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Ferraro in the house. Make sure you go check out Gnarly Science. It's down below. If you're on YouTube, it's in the chat. If you're on Facebook Live. Mike, thanks again for being here, buddy.
You're welcome, man.
All right, hang out with me just 1 minute. We'll be right back to you. Am I not right, everybody? Cool dude, right? Am I not right? I'm telling you. You got to go check out his stuff. It really is that good. And when I'll say this, you'll say it, you'll look at it and be like, this is a webcomic, and then you're going to read it and be like, dude, this is dope. Like, it's just so different. He will go into story arcs and stardom. Something will pop in you can tell if something pops in his head that he has to get out. He'll write it. He'll do a one-pager, and then he'll jump back into the storyline, or he'll see something and he'll say, I had to get this out. Like, it'll be a chat bubble from Mikey. He'd be like, I had to talk about this. And it's great that people put their thoughts and their hearts into work, not caring what people think, but that the fact that there is not one bit of this guy that I can tell that is selfish or any bit of trying to hurt anybody or anything. And I don't even think there's one violent thing in the comics. Well, Mikey gets cracked in the skull every now and then, but besides that, there is it's not a violent comic. It is just a slice of life comic more than anything else. If you were to take it from, again, Mike back in the 20s and kind of throwing all these 80s and 90s Easter eggs, it's well worth your time. Go check it out. It's free on spinwizcomics.com. You can also follow him on Gnarly Science on Instagram. He puts a lot of his stuff there. We'll have a whole bunch of it. And obviously in the next, I don't know, sometime in the future, when that print is out, I will let everybody know, and he'll probably have a bigger following than me by that point. I mean, he's going to leave me in the dust. Someday he's just going to be like, I remember this dude, Jeff. What is his name? Jeff? And he'll be like, there was a platform. I don't know. And I'll probably be sitting right next to him too. So anyway, thank y'all for being here. Have a wonderful night. I hope you have a great rest of your week and the weekend. Enjoy Halloween if you're into that thing. If you're not, or if you're into De los Muertos, I think that's right, Day of the Dead. I probably said it wrong because my Spanish is awful, but enjoy that as well. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Have a great night.